Hey guys, and welcome to Petrol Ped. Now, a question I get asked a lot is, if you love EVs so much, how come you haven't bought one yet? Well, I don't think I've ever stated that I love EVs. I just love cars, irrespective of how they're powered. I love hot hatches, I love supercars, I love some electric cars, I love SUVs. I'm a car nut. But I thought I should explain to you why, up until this point anyway, we haven't bought an EV. Even though we have the infrastructure here at home to charge one, we've never actually bitten the bullet. And there are some good reasons for that. But I also want to talk a little bit about the luxury car tax that we have here in the UK and how I just don't think that it's fit for purpose. And I think it's actually damaging the industry. Now, you will have noticed this beautiful Lantana purple McLaren Artura Spider sat in my dream garage. This is a dream car and the very definition of a luxury car. It's a beautiful, beautiful thing. But the luxury car tax bracket starts at £40,000. You can buy a Vauxhall Astra that puts you into that car tax bracket, and the financial penalties are significant for the first 5 years of ownership. And I just don't think that's helping the car industry in general, but particularly electric car sales. Now, there will be a video coming to the channel very, very soon with that lovely McLaren Artura Spider that's parked downstairs. In fact, I'm going to be filming with it later on today. But first up, I wanted to talk about the expensive car Vehicle Excise Duty supplement, or more commonly, I think everyone just calls it the luxury car tax, which came in 2017. And it basically said that if a car has a list price of more than £40,000, that will be classified as a luxury car. And in years 2 to 6, you would have an additional amount added to your yearly vehicle excise duty, the thing that most of us call road tax. Now, it's worth noting, by the way, that that £40,000 threshold is the list price of the car, including any options. And that stays the same even if the dealer then discounted the car so that it was less than £40,000, and the yearly road fund license, vehicle excise duty, road tax, whichever one that you want to call it, that stays with the car even if you were then to sell the car on. So £40,000 becomes a really, really important benchmark. And I'm not so sure, in the crazy world of car prices that we now live in, that £40,000 really describes a luxury car. It did 5 or 10 years ago, but in 2025, I just don't think it does. So how much are you going to be paying? Well, first of all, on the 1st of April this year, standard vehicle excise duty went up to £195 a year. The luxury car supplement is £425 a year. So that means in year 2 to 6, you're going to be paying £620 a year. That is a total of £3,100 in the first 6 years of ownership of the car. And I think that's outrageous. I mean, it's not really a luxury car. It's just the standard priced family car can easily hit £40,000, and you're going to be ending up paying another £3,100 on top of that. So what has this got to do with EVs? Well, quite a lot actually, because up until the 1st of April this year, EVs were exempt from the luxury car tax. And they're not anymore. You have to pay exactly the same rates as petrol and diesel cars. So as soon as your EV tips that £40,000 threshold, you need to pay the taxes we've just been talking about. And the average price of an EV in the UK is currently just under £60,000. It's £59,735 actually. And I think that is hurting EV sales, because in April of this year, EV sales made up just 20.4% of overall sales, and the ZEV mandate target this year is 28%. So we're already well shy of that target. So I think unless the government have a really long, hard think about this and maybe push the threshold out, for me, looking at car prices that we have today, luxury car bracket should start maybe 60 or 70,000 pounds. And that then would drop lots of more, I'm going to say affordable, but I know there'll be people watching this saying even 40,000 pounds is beyond most families at the moment. I know there are families that will be looking at cars for 20, 30 or 40,000 pounds. But the challenge with this luxury car tax is it stays with the car for 6 years. So I'm going to come on to buying an EV in a moment, but buying a used EV is actually a really good idea because you can get some amazing deals because someone else gets hit with a depreciation, but you're still going to have that higher level of vehicle excise duty for the first 6 years of the car, which may well put you off because you're going to be spending 620 quid a year in road tax. Now, before we get on to why it is I haven't bought an EV yet, I just wanted to give you some examples. I popped onto the internet this morning just to have a look at what kind of cars tipped into the luxury car tax bracket. And the first one I want to talk about is a Vauxhall Astra. Now that is, with no disrespect to Vauxhall and the Astra, it's not what I'd classify as a luxury car. It's just a normal family car. And a top spec Vauxhall Astra will tip over £40,000. There are models and trim levels underneath that won't. But you can get a Vauxhall Astra tipping the luxury car tax bracket. Kia EV3, brilliant car, one of my favourite electric cars, but the top spec EV3 exceeds £40,000. And then I thought, well, I wonder what the offerings from the luxury car manufacturers of BMW, Mercedes and Audi, the German triumvirate. You go onto their website, you look at their electric vehicle offerings, and there's not a single car from any of those manufacturers that is under £40,000. Not one. Every single electric car from those three manufacturers is over the 40,000. Now, don't get me wrong, they all have cars that definitely, I think, should be classified as luxury car tax from sort of £80,000 upwards, definitely. But their entry-level EV offerings all exceed £40,000. No wonder they're not selling as many cars as they'd like. Okay, so why is it that I haven't yet bought an electric car? Well, first up, it's got nothing to do with my channel name. Petrol Ped was a reference to petrol head, someone who just loves cars, and chosen when I never realised that YouTube would become my full-time occupation, and I didn't really give it any thought, to be honest. That was 10 years ago. Electric cars were quite a niche thing back then. And now, clearly, they are far more mainstream. So it's got nothing to do with the fact it's Petrol Ped in the title. I just love cars, as I've said already, but I do love petrol cars and diesel cars. Diesel mainly more on the kind of SUV side of things. The cars I've owned would be things like Land Rover Discovery 3, Range Rover Sport. I had that Defender 90 long-termer with a beautiful straight six diesel, super smooth, brilliant for towing, all those types of things. So diesel has their place. I've never been a big performance diesel fan because I like the noise that you get from a petrol internal combustion engine. So when I look at my kind of day-to-day cars, I just have a want and a love for a petrol car and the noise and the engagement that you tend to get with petrol cars. I also have the kind of journey profile, the types of journeys and the time frame for those journeys would make it not impossible to run an EV, but just a lot more challenging. I often have to drive a long way to get to a film location or some kind of press event, and adding on time for a charge would just make those journeys a little bit more challenging. And I've just never really wanted to go down that road. And I'm sure if I committed, it would be fine. But that, for me, those types of journeys are the main reason why I haven't bought an EV as my main car. But the other thing is the fact that I get access to so many press cars. I mean, I'll have a press car every week if I can. It depends if I've got foreign trips, there's no point having a press car because they either just sit at Heathrow or sit on my driveway. But if I'm at home, I'll try and have a press car in the garage as much as possible. That means I don't drive my own car. So there's less and less requirement. If I'm going to have a car of my own at home, I'm going to have a car that I'll really enjoy when I get the opportunity to drive it. And that, for me, every time will be a petrol car. The other side of the garage, Tracy's side of the garage, for the journey profiles that she does, short trips to work and so on a daily basis, I've said it many times on the channel, you know, that would be perfect use case for an EV. However, that car now, with that, we've now got the Macan, is the car that we would do longer journeys with. And I'm going to use, I'll call it the Tracy factor, in that I could probably work into my longer journeys the time and plan in stops and so on. And I've done that with press cars and long-termers and so on. And the infrastructure is getting better and better in the UK, but when things go wrong with an EV, they tend to go spectacularly wrong, whether that's a charge station not working when you get there or there's a big queue. And I just know from experience, Tracy and I have been married 25 years this year, and I know that that's just not her wheelhouse. She's just going to freak out, basically. So it just, on a longer journey profile, I just know that EVs wouldn't work for us. However, I have driven some EVs over the last, let's say, 5-6 years, where I've driven them and thought, do you know what? I could definitely see myself in one of these on a more permanent basis. So let's have a chat about the 5 EVs that I've driven that I would consider buying. Come here, look. Hup, hup, yeah, woohoo! So, which EVs would I buy? What's your favourite? I reckon I know what your favourite's going to be. So, I've driven quite a few that are very close to being something I would buy. One of the most recent ones I've driven was the Genesis GV60. I really, really like that car. I thought it looked great from the outside, beautiful interior, and it drove really nicely. Tips into the luxury car tax bracket, surprisingly. So that would be number 5. Coming in at number 4, a car I haven't driven in the UK yet. I've only really driven it on a handling circuit and on a racetrack, and that is the Alfa Romeo Junior Veloce. Has to be the Veloce, because I don't think the trim levels underneath Veloce look all that at all. I think the car needs to be in Veloce trim. But as a car that I really enjoyed driving, it's got a mechanical limited slip diff. It was brilliant from a handling point of view, and I really like the interior and I really like the exterior design. So that would be close. Number 3, I have a bit of a soft spot for a Skoda Elrock, and that's what you like. So we took these, well, when we had the other one, took them to Chewton Glen in the New Forest in the Elrock and spent a whole week with the car. And I just think it's a really, really good car. I think it's got lots of really nice features. It's got a good amount of range. It's very practical. It's a family car. It's not a sports car or a car that you would like look forward to driving at the weekend. It's just a really good all-round car. And I think the buying choices, I would be far more inclined to have bought an EV if I didn't do the job I do. If I had access to a salary sacrifice scheme at work, then I'll tell you now, I would definitely have an EV in the garage downstairs, because just from a financial point of view, it makes so much sense. But unfortunately, I don't have access to a salary sacrifice scheme. And therefore, the other thing I would say is, if I were to be buying an EV, I wouldn't buy a new one. I would not go out and buy a brand new EV as a personal buyer. I would be looking at a 18-month to 2-year-old car, which has more than likely had its hit of depreciation to start with. Still have to think about the luxury car tax, which is one of the reasons I did the video. But you can get some really good used bargains. And I think one of the things that I think people are starting to get their head around a little bit more is the worry with used EVs about battery longevity and battery life. I think we're seeing batteries lasting far longer than a lot of the manufacturers thought they would. A lot of the batteries have really good warranties on them, 8 years plus, 100,000 mile plus warranties off of lots of different manufacturers. Some of the manufacturers I've quoted have got 5 or 7 year warranties on their cars anyway. So I think it's a relatively safe bet, and there are more and more used car outlets that specialize in EVs that you can go and talk to, or you can buy it from the main dealer, and therefore there are some options. The last couple, I think, would be the two very top of the list. Number 2 would be the R5 from Renault. I think that's just such a good looking car. It's an absolute peach to drive, brilliant thing, nice interior. I would probably have one over and above an A290 from Alpine. Even though I like the A290 from an aesthetics point of view, I think it looks wicked. It looks way nicer, wider track, more aggressive, more sporty, right up my street. And clearly it's a faster car and handles better and all those things, but it's £10,000 more expensive. And I'm not so sure it's worth all that extra money. A standard R5 is so good. You could get the top spec trim Renault R5, even brand new from your dealer, and not hit the 40% bracket for luxury car tax. I think it's a really good option as an EV. Range isn't brilliant, a couple of 100 miles, but as a second car or as a car where you do predominantly smaller or shorter journeys, it would be absolutely fine. I think its weak point is it only charges at 100 kilowatts, but you know, I'm sure you could live with that. But I think the car that I've had spent time in recently that I thought, you know what, that would be a car I would buy, and interestingly is also a car that Tracy would buy, would be the Porsche Taycan, but specifically either the Cross Turismo or the Sport Turismo. I just like that form factor, that body shape. Again, new, they're like well over £100,000, but you could pick up a 2 or 3 year old one from a Porsche main dealer, so you've still got the 2 years Porsche warranty for £60,000 to £70,000. You're going to be paying your luxury car tax, but that is a car where I think it's a justified label for sure. But what a car. I mean, they just drive brilliantly. Again, not a car I would buy new unless I was buying it through a business and so on. But as a used car for a personal purchase, I think that is a really, really good shout. You know, if you buy a newer Taycan with a larger battery, you've probably got easily 300 miles of range. They support very rapid DC charging. They look fantastic. They drive great. I just think that would be a great option for an EV. So they would be the ones I would be thinking about. But I'd love to know what you guys think. I'd love to know if the £40,000 luxury car tax bracket has made you change your mind about a car you were looking at buying, whether that's new or used, because as I've said, it affects the used car for the first 5 or 6 years. And whether you've had that debate as to whether you're going to buy an EV or not, and if you did, which one would it be? Interestingly, the EV that I often say to people, if you're unsure about EV ownership and you want the easiest living with experience, I don't think you can go far wrong with a Tesla. However, at the moment, I wouldn't go anywhere near them for obvious political reasons. But you can't not consider one. A Model Y or a Model 3, the build quality is not great. The design is debatable, you know, whether you think it's aesthetically nice or not. But as an easy car to live with, they are very, very good. But I personally wouldn't have one. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed that. Something a little bit different. I've touched on this subject a couple of times. I've had people message me and say, can you just do a video on the luxury car tax? I think it needs to change. As I said, I think it needs to go up to like 60 or 70,000 pounds, and that's when it kicks into the luxury car tax bracket. But I'm pretty sure it won't, because the government are making lots of money, thank you very much, from that. But the flip side is, I think it's hurting the car sales in the UK. It's especially hurting the electric car sales, which the government have put these targets in place. They want the manufacturers to hit those targets or there are penalties. And at the same time they're doing that, they're effectively hamstringing the manufacturers with this luxury car tax. It's just whoever's in charge of that transportation policy clearly hasn't got a clue what they're talking about. Anyway, what do you think, Petrol Pup? Yeah, I took her on a 7-mile run this morning. She's a little bit tired. Anyway, let me know what you think. I hope you enjoyed that one. If you did, give me a thumbs up. Comments below are always welcome. And if you haven't done so already, please subscribe to Petrol Ped for plenty more content to come. Don't forget, stay tuned, because this week, on Friday actually, is going to be that McLaren Artura downstairs. It's a mega bit of kit. It's got a battery, got an electric motor, but it's also got 700 horsepower and a lovely twin turbo V6.